talking about when you had Ernie and Arthur. When you had Ernie, you stayed in the hospital for 15 days.
Yeah.
How much did that cost?
Oh, it cost a lot of money then. An ordinary doctor would do a maternity for $50. That included the whole 9 months of looking after you and your delivery. But Mary had that horrible time when she lost her baby. She was so sick afterwards. So I had a specialist, Dr. Nash. He charged $150. Now, that would be like $1,500 now. And mind, it was, I think, something like $250 a day for a semi-private. There was public wards, which I wouldn't want to stay in that. And the private wards were $5 a day, which was quite a lot. But you get a semi for $250. And there would be 2 people in it. But during the war, they made 4. You couldn't even move between the beds. You didn't have to say to anybody, you know, can you hand me this? You could hand it to the next person. And there were beds in the hallways. And the labor room, there was the labor room was right on the main maternity floor. Everything was. And across from the labor room, as though, this is what bothered me, you're in labor, and it was just sort of, you know, they didn't need to have a very good room for that. I mean, it was just a woman in labor idea. And the walls had not been finished. They were still bare cement. And they had all kinds of, everything stored in them, the linens and things, extra storage. It was like being put in a back room, you know, until you get this messy business over with. And the delivery room was right across the hall. So you could be going to visit somebody, and the nurse would say, excuse me, and rush across the hall with a woman in advanced labor on the stretcher. And anyhow, they would take you before they, you know, before, if you were going to deliver before visiting hours were over, they would take you to the delivery room, and you were flat on your back, no pillow, nothing, hands strapped down to your sides, your feet raised way up like this in stirrups, and that's where they moved you down here, and you were in this position, flat on your back, and you'd be in such pain, and you'd see, oh, you know, you'd feel it, you'd feel it coming again. You'd say, well, is the doctor coming? Oh, we haven't phoned him yet. We don't need the doctor yet. Your baby's not coming yet. And, you know, they left you alone. I thought, if my baby falls, it'll go, it comes, it'll go, and it goes right on the floor. Anyhow, as you got further advanced, they would say, you started to, you know, to have to bear down. They knew then that your baby was coming. But it took a long time. And then they'd phone the doctor. Well, they'd misjudge. And they were in trouble if the baby was born before he got there. So they would slap your face as hard as they could, just keep slapping your face. Don't bear down! Don't bear down! Well, stop breathing. And of course the doctor would arrive, and he'd be scrubbing, and you'd be, you know, pushing away. And he'd say, okay, just another push now. Okay, now one more push, and there's the baby. I'll swear he never got there. And I know damn well that I hired a specialist, and I had an intern deliver my baby, because Arthur Robert came faster, and the doctor never arrived. But the Dr. Nash was, oh, he was this nitty little guy. He thought he was God. And then back to bed. On the 10th day, you could sit up and put your feet over the side of the bed. And they put binders on you, like double cotton, tied it all around your abdomen, pinned it. You couldn't even breathe. God knows what that was for. And you didn't get store-bought pads. You got hospital-made ones. And when you were recuperating in the hospital, they put a carton of the darn thing, cotton balls beside you, and pieces of gauze, and you put 4 of these in, and you rolled it up and tied it a certain way. And you had to do it. It was compulsory service. And I was in the hospital for 6 weeks with Fergie. finally one day, I was just going nuts. I was just going nuts. It was a hot, hot day. And lying there, not allowed to sit up, not allowed to get on my feet, just lie. And I had finished this last box, and oh, thank God I finished that. I couldn't even read. They brought another box in. Do you know what I did? I thought, I'll go to Warwick's. I don't care. I just took the carton, put it on the window ledge, and gave it a push, and it fell right down into the garden. Next thing you knew, the damn gardener brought it back. I just refused to do it. I said, I'm not making anymore. I said, I'm lying here for 6 weeks. And I said, I'm not making anymore. Finally, after 6 weeks, I went into labor. They said, I thought, oh, thank God, I'll get out of this room. At least I'll get into the labor room. It'll be a nice change. Oh, no, we'll keep you here until you won't go into the labor room at all. We'll keep you here. But they needed the bed. Thank God, somebody had delivered and they needed the bed. So they put me in the labor room. And good night, Mrs. Beadle. We'll see you in the morning. Oh, no, your baby won't be born till morning. This was about 5 minutes to 11, and the nurse was going off at 11 o'clock. So she was in her coat, actually, when she came in. And I said, the baby is coming now. You know, I had to bear down.
Mm-hmm.
No, 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 she says, I just examined. Your baby won't be born for a long time. And away she went. And then this intern came in, and they all said he was a homosexual. He wore white Oxfords like the nurses wore. And he walked with an mincing walk, and he was very feminine. And he came in to the room, and I said to him, I started to say, I'm afraid the baby's going to burn. I said, I'm afraid. Now, you mustn't be afraid. We now have childbirth without fear. So, of course, I had to really bear down. I couldn't help myself. Oh, I threw the clothes back, and of course, there was Fergie's head. You know what they did? They got a stretcher, and in that condition, they supported the baby's head and wheeled me across the hall into the delivery room because the doctor would have killed them otherwise. Waiting for 6 weeks to have a baby, and then so another good push, and Fergie was there, but there was no damn doctor. A funny little intern delivered him. You've done it before. You found it fascinating. I'd love to be able to have a baby myself. Jeez. And then when the doctor did arrive, he said, how long were you in labor? Since last night. I was in labor all day today. When were you brought upstairs? Oh, an hour before I delivered, and I said, the nurse said I wouldn't deliver till the morning. The same thing happened with you. 11 o'clock. I went to the hospital about 10:30. It's 11 o'clock, and she examined me, and she said, oh, no, you're not dilated yet. You won't have your baby till morning, and the doctor told us to give you this sedative to put you to sleep. This was Dr. Longridge. So I was waiting for the sedative. She was going to bring me a sedative to put me to sleep. In the meantime, Dr. Longridge had an emergency call for an appendicitis for one of the kids in the private school. So he came up to see me first. He said, I thought I'd just drop in. He says, before I changed and see how you are. I said, I thought to have the baby. No, I said, just I've got to operate on this other girl. So he didn't even bother to examine me. He said, the babies. I said, the water broke a long time ago. And I said, the babies. They'd be here before 11 o'clock. They were, too. I wanted you to wait till midnight, just one little bit more. No, you did. What they put it down as October the 1st by the time they were born, I guess. But anyhow, that meant that the nurse who was going off at 11 had to stay, so she was mad about that. And Dr. Longridge, I don't know if he was there or not. Well, I guess he must have been. He washed up and put on a smock. He had to get ready to operate on the kid anyhow. We kept the kid waiting while they delivered you. And boy, did the nurse ever get in trouble, because she says, here's this pill, this sedative pill. I finally got it. So I took it, and I knew, I pretended I'd put it in my mouth. It was still in my hand when you were delivered. I said, I guess you can have this back now. Sleeping here.
Nice. An intelligent choice.
Oh, it's a wonder we survived when I think of that guy. So when they'd all gone away, I thought, to hell with this. And I walked down the hall, and nobody even tried to stop me. And there's no reason for me being in the hall. Everybody had a bathroom in their room. I walked right past the nurse's desk. The nurse sort of looked up, thought nothing of it. I went in and I had a shower. Washed my hair. Had a shower after 6 weeks. Oh, did I feel good. And then when I stepped out of the shower, it was a quick one, mind you. I stepped out of the shower, there was a chair there. I needed to sit in it too. I sort of had to put my head down because I was a bit on a nothing diet, you know. So I thought, now I got to get back to my bed without being seen. So I got back to my bed, and then I rang the bell, and I said, I wonder if I could have a clean nightgown. I said, this one, I must have spilled water on it or something when I was drinking. It's wet. So that was, I didn't dry myself well enough. So, and I said I could use a few more pads too. So she brought me a dry nightgown and some pads, and I went to sleep. And I could easily have gone home the next day if I'd had someone to look after me. Of course, if I'd gone home the next day, Daddy would have gone hunting, and he would have brought company home for dinner, and I would have had to cook all day. Daddy doesn't do a thing in the house now. No, there were days when I was cleaning up and changing. The dad changed my bedroom around. Everything was upside down. Daddy just slept in the chair in the kitchen all day, and he's in bed every night at 8:30. And he sleeps through, and I have to wake him up at 8 o'clock in the morning to give him some tea. He's just sleeping. I swear he's got diabetes. But I think he's thinking about going to the doctor, because when he starts to diet, and he cuts off his, eating all these muffins and things he eats, it's like his mother used to do when she went to the doctor. A week before, she would diet just so there wouldn't be any too much blood in her, sugar in her blood.
How does living through the depression affect your life?
How did living through depression affect my life? Well, I think it made me a little squirrely. Put that down. A little squirrely. I panic unless I have some food stored in the house. And like a squirrel, I want to put my nuts away for winter. I panic if there isn't meat in the freezer and milk and bread and food. The food supply goes down, I get nervous. Because I can remember being very short of food. I remember Mama had a teapot it was. And it was like the little old lady that we've got. And of course some was put by all the time for whatever was needed. And it was way up on the top shelf of a cupboard. You had to climb up in the cupboard and walk along this counter. And I was just a kid, you see. And I used to reach up and start to panic. They'd say about, what are we going to do? I don't know how we're going to manage. And I'd look in the jar and I'd know if there was money in the jar. I'd relax because we'd be okay. It made me I determined that I would steal before I would let my children go hungry. It made me realize that it was all unnecessary. There's just no way that everyone in this world can't have food.
think the government did enough during the Depression?
They did what they could with what they had. People weren't working, they couldn't pay their taxes. They had to pay, they did the best they could. But the system just wasn't working right. I mean, there were a lot of very, very rich people who preyed on the poor people. The wealthy people in Shaughnessy didn't need to have servants that their daughters could call and throw a blouse at them, iron this, it's just that wasn't necessary. People lived off other people's labor. Everything could be much more evenly distributed. I don't know how. But there were the very, very rich, and then there were the very, very poor. And no child should have to go hungry. They are going hungry again now. Like these school lunches, I don't know that I completely approve of them. I mean, who gets them? And do the parents that can afford to pay for them? Or are there people who are letting their kids get these lunches if they bought more wisely, you know? I've watched a woman on welfare shopping in a Safeway. I mean, I think that people need to learn more about how to shop. I mean, when you've got a family to feed, you don't go and buy a package of Twinkies and some choo-choo cereal or whatever it is. You buy good oatmeal and you buy real food. You can't, but they don't know any better. This woman with tins of canned spaghetti in her basket on welfare. They just don't. They should be a way that they should teach people how to shop and what was nutritious.
Actually, there's a group, several groups. I think they were attached to. The guy next door was involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
Started out in church, but I think he was a kinsman.
Yeah.
No, he's a lion. He's always one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, they get groups of 4 or 5 welfare mothers or
Mm-hmm.
low-income mothers,
Mm-hmm.
and they use the church kitchens,
Mm-hmm.
and they all buy enough for one meal for everybody.
Oh yeah.
Of good, and it has to be good food. And they
Yeah.
all get together and they cook all this stuff.
Uh-huh. The welfare mothers.
Yeah, and then
That's
they
a
all
good
take
idea.
one of each thing that they home with them, so that they get
A nutritious meal.
yeah, they
And
don't
they
have
know
to cook
what-
like one big thing, and
Yeah.
everybody eats for 2 weeks.
Yeah. That's a good idea. Sure, there are a lot of good ideas like that, but I look at people's shopping baskets, and at the Safeway, mind you, they couldn't go to Costco, they have to have a car. Or, they're
Buying muffins.
buying muffins, that's the worst thing. Muffins you can make so easy, and you can make good nutritious bread for children. It fills them up and feeds them. It isn't just a wasted carbohydrate.
If you hadn't had 4 sons first, would you still be active in the peace movement?
Yes, I definitely would have. Absolutely. It wasn't only for my 4 sons, who I would have never let go to boarding. I would have hidden them. I would have done like the Americans. I would have hidden them. And no, I would not let that happen again if I could help it. I think that this last war, war was a terrible war, fought for nothing. They just started it and stopped it when it was convenient for them. And now they've decided they want a depression. You know why? They're going to make everybody poor, so they'll be glad to go to war again. But
to as a necessary solution to the question?
No, it wasn't a solution at all, was it? We got another one now. It's no solution. It got rid of a lot of people. It decimated the population. But good God, it certainly wasn't any solution. There were people hungry all through the war. Food was rationed. People were poor. A lot of people had to leave their homes and come and work on the coast. War is never a solution. I mean, it's like if somebody broke their hand, so you shot them.
Do you think the government used it as a solution? Or was it just
It
something
worked
that
out to
happened?
be one for them. They took the credit for it. It was the McGear that got Vancouver back on its feet. It wasn't really him, it was the war. It's not only sons now, it's daughters, and it's children, and it's babies, and it's what is happening to us right now. All these diseases, all this cancer. There's so darn much junk floating around up in the atmosphere that it's killing everyone. Look what happened in Chernobyl. And don't forget that. All the lambs in Uist had such a high level of radiation that they all had to be killed. And the people got compensation for it. And the next year, they all had to be killed again because they had too much radiation. Well, how much radiation have the people got? Yeah.
Probably wouldn't want to know.
And then all of a sudden, our biggest enemy is our biggest friend? No. I'll tell you what war is building up right now between the Muslims. The Muslims, all the countries that left the Soviet Union are Muslim countries. And Hussein's little plan is, I've got all the Russian atomic bombs now in this little thing. And I've got my own, and Hussein will be dropping atomic bombs on Britain yet. There's got to be a way to prevent poverty and to help people who can't help themselves. Just think of all the people, if they had given up Expo, all the people who could have been fed. The everyday people are too easily pacified. They're not active enough. They need to wake up and face the music. They don't understand what makes it tick.
No social conscience anymore. Well, I've got what I want. That's all I want to know. Right, Pete?
It's not a very nice day.
No. It started out like it was going to be a nice day.
I knew Mary would say, "Oh, I was asleep." She never sleeps here. "Oh, I was asleep." We could sneak up on her and get our pictures back. I'll take you out to lunch if you like.
No, you can't do anything.
I ate in the chefs.
That's good. But when you were sick.
I'm not awfully sick.
It's on now.
Okay. The schools were run in a very militant, institutional way. We all had to line up, straighten our lines, and march in class by class and stand by our seats at attention, and the teacher would come in and she would say, "Good morning, children." We would say, "Good morning, teacher. You may sit down now." We would sit down. And then she would say, "At ease." That meant you could relax. But if she said, "Sit at attention," you had to sit with your feet flat on the floor, your hands behind your back, and sitting up straight, listening. And if she said, "At ease," you could relax and sit back and take your hands away from your back. But any time you answered a question, the teacher would say, "Peggy, can you give us the answer to that? Stand up." Well, you stood up, you took one step out, and you stood straight, and you gave the answer. "Yes, Miss Johns." And then, "At ease," and you would step back in. And then, when we got restless or tired, maybe if we had a nice teacher, nice teachers let you do this. Class, we're going to have a little physical education now. Stand, okay, to the left, at attention. To the left, at attention. Now, raise your arms to the ceiling. Up, down, up, down, up, down. Turn. Then she would say, "Attention," you get attention. To the right, at attention. At ease, you may sit down. If you slouched, you would, Remember, adding, the thing to do, you had to add fast. Remember, I told you about this. This was Mr. Dunbar, Mr. John Dunbar. His belly came into the room half an hour before he did, and you could write that down too. And he had gravy and food stains all down his vest. He was a horrible man. Gross. Anyhow, he would put something 6 across and 6 down. Just, different numbers on the blackboard. And he would come and stand by your desk. He would pick somebody and step by, and you had to put your hands on the desk and add, and he would tap like this. And it'd be 15, 29, 30, and if you made a mistake, wham, with the ruler, and it had a metal piece on it. There's the scars. Of course, you would get nervous. He would just keep going, and then he would go faster, and as soon as you made a mistake, you got it. And one day, the boy in front of me, whose father was one of the owners of Heron Brothers Undertakers, the family's still there, he just was going to have that boy. His name was Robert. He was always very nicely dressed, very neat, bit of a snob guy. But anyhow, he was going to get that boy, so he started in the tapping. The boy got the ruler and he said, "I'm going to tell my father what you've done." He grabbed him by the neck, by his collar, and he got him up and threw him on the floor, and he kicked him. And he dragged him by his clothes into the office, and he beat the devil out of the kid. The whole class were witnesses, and they tried to fire him that year, and we were praying that he would be fired. And he failed the whole class. All of grade 8 failed. We didn't pass. So, we got to write the government exams. Some of us got very, very high marks in the government exam. Still didn't get rid of them. But that was the end of the year. But the next year, he wasn't there. The year that I left, he wasn't there anymore. Because he'd been warned, but he was a sadistic, horrible man. He would stand in the doorway. It would keep you in after school. And he never did this to me because he would never have survived. But he would stand in the doorway, sideways, and as you went through, he would push push up against you. That was sexual, not harassment, that was sexual, what do you call it? Yes, that was sexual assault. There's no doubt about that. And then the doctor used to come, just at random. Nobody knew when this public health doctor would come. And his job was to examine all the different kids. Well, he must have changed the names or put wrong charts, because the only classes he ever called in were the grade 8 girls, who were quite mature, some of them. And when I remember this day, the doctor came, and this girl called Winnie Beaton. She was fatter than the rest of us and more developed. She started to cry because there were so many bad stories went on about this guy. So anyhow, Winnie Beaton and I got called in together, and the nurse had pince nez. She was horrible, buck teeth. In a nurse's uniform, strip. She said, of course, I didn't take my clothes off. I was a conscientious objector, and I knew I didn't have to. Our parents had got us all conscientious objectors' papers, so the doctor was not allowed to examine us or touch us, or give us any shots, or give us any medicine, or vaccinations that time. Conscientious objectors. Oh, it's going down, oh dear. Anyhow, Winnie Beaton started to strip. She got down to her undershirt, and she walked out in her undershirt and her underpants. She was quite chubby. There was no privacy, and the nurse just happened to be busy then and left the room. So I remember the doctor fondled her breasts and said, "Oh, what have we got here?" That was when I ran out of the room. You know who was in the room with the doctor? Mr. Dunbar. I ran out of the room, and he grabbed me by the shoulder, and he says, "Where do you think you're going, and what are you going to do?" And he pulled my arm out of joint. I went home. I went with my father down to the school board, and insisted on going down to the school board, and I told them exactly what happened, and I said, "I can get lots of other witnesses." I said, "We all knew he did this. Did he do it to you?" "No, I'm a conscientious objector, and he can't touch me." So anyhow, Winnie Beaton never came back to school. And I said, "Where's Winnie Beaton? What's happened to her?" "She's had a nervous breakdown." She said her parents took her out of school. And, of course, they didn't get anywhere. I was never questioned by anybody anymore, but all the other girls in the class were questioned. And they said, "It's true, he would." And I remember one girl telling him, "We heard her from where we were, wherever we were, I don't know. You know very well he does, Miss Watson. You've stood and watched him, you know." So he was red-haired, and his name was Dr. Lamont. And he was a child molester. And so was Mr. Dunbar. But they knew better than to touch me. I was poison. I would dispute my marks, like, you know, for Justin just got a mark he didn't think was right. "Did you tell the teacher?" "No." I said, "Just tell the teacher very nicely. You don't like that mark, you want a better one." He's having trouble right now with his music teacher. He was in the choir, and she's really hard on him. Of course, mind you, the kid's been taking guitar lessons for 2 years, but like he said to me, "I'm going to guitar lessons, and this kid, he's only a teenager, puts me in the room and tells me to practice." And he says, "I paid $10 for that. He never teaches me anything." So he wants so badly to play an instrument, but I don't think he's very musical. I think you have to have a talent that I don't think he has. However, the music teacher is very hard on him, so he sprained his shoulder, sprained his leg. He was off school for a whole week with a sprained back. And then the music teacher said something to him, so he went and told his teacher, and then that he went to the principal. The principal said, "Why don't you go and tell your teacher, have a talk with her yourself?" Well, he did, and Fergie was upset, and because what she said was, well, she said, "It's pretty hard to teach kids who are not musical. You don't have a talent for music." And she said, "You shouldn't be in the choir." She said, "You're not in the choir?" She said, "I have been in choirs," she said, "since I was in kindergarten, and I wanted to be in the choir now. And you said, no, I wasn't good enough. So, anyhow, she said, well, half this class, she said, just don't seem to learn, and the other half is just plain stupid. That's what she said to Justin. So, of course, Justin came home and told Fergie and Darlene, and they were livid because he had no right to have to face that teacher alone. He should have had a parent with him. So, I don't know, he was off school for a whole week, and if they cleared up the music teacher problem, his back would clear up. But he's never had a teacher he can't stand before. But it's funny, I didn't know who she was. There was a I hated that Miss Johns. And I knew darn well if I went home, Mama would say, oh, go back to school and forget it. So I walked all the way down to the school board, and they listened.
I was rather more attention.
I was. I also went down to the school board about Winnie Beaton. And about the doctor, because I had my arm, I really hurt my arm, and I was 11 years old, just Justin's age. But I was outspoken. Only one time that a teacher insulted me, oh God, he was insulting us. Oh, our teacher, Mr. Forgotten his name, began with an S, a little wee guy. Very quiet, very poor teacher, always seemed to be half asleep. And one day a knock came to the door, and two policemen came into the room, and they said to him, you are under arrest. Would you like to step outside? But first they put him handcuff on him and took him out of the room. And then the principal came in and said, we have a little problem, so the class will be, this class is dismissed, you can go home for the rest of the day. We came back the next day, and there was an old guy there, an old Scotchman. He was a temporary teacher, you know, he maybe taught him his life. And we were learning that. It was grade 7, good God. Anyhow, he started to tell us this story. There were 3 boxes, and so one opened one, wasn't there. She opened the other one, and it was there. And she opened the 3rd one, I said to the girl, and there it was. Stand up, he said. What's your name? I said, Peggy MacDonald. You're a gibbering idiot. Sit down. Spoke the story for everybody. Oh my God. Pre-primary level? You didn't last very long. And then we got an ex-China inland missionary woman, and she taught us to sing Bringing in the Sheaves in Chinese. And of course we didn't really know what she was saying, but I remember it was down with Chinkwache, down with Chinkwache, wash 'em, wake up, silo, down with Chinkwache. That's all it was. It wasn't, you know. She taught us to sing hymns in Chinese and told us all about how she was very well liked in China. Oh, she thought that it would be, she thought it was wonderful because I had black hair. But fair-haired people, she looked around the room, and of course my hair was practically white. She said, oh, Peggy, don't ever go to China. She said, you'll be murdered before you get very far. God. Then Mr. McIntosh thought it would be very nice if Canada had a missionary to represent the Highland Church in Canada, so he picked me. And I was supposed to go to this building. It's, I guess, on Fur and Broadway. God, I think it's pulled down now. Broadway and Fur, no, the block behind. There's an old church, and it was the China Inland Mission. And of course I could have gone on with my schooling there and learned to be a missionary and go to China, but I would have to take their training, and then I would have to interpret it into the Church of Scotland's teaching, become a missionary. Mama was very proud because, you know, I could go to be a missionary. Oh, Mr. McIntosh, that's lovely. Oh, won't that be nice, Peggy? No, I'm not going to be a missionary. He said, why don't you want to be a missionary? I I said, because I'm afraid I would tell them the truth. What do you mean by that? I said, I'd tell them the truth. As I see it. I wouldn't lie to them. What do you mean to say that ministers lie? Yes. They're hypocrites. Not you, but the moderator of the Church of Scotland certainly. Did I tell you about the, yeah, that I put that down. Boy, you wonder, it's easy to make atheists out of us. I didn't like to write down about how Mama locked me out. Yeah. But I found out, though, when I spoke to, well, Freddie came, I was very cool to him. Oh, I just was really mean to him. Arthur said, "You hungry? You'd like a sandwich?" Yeah, sure. We made him a sandwich. But the place was messy. It was dirty. I had just bought some chicken. Oh, it was messy. And I don't know why he came. I mean, he was brave. I'll tell him that. Actually, I think he was looking at real estate. Because it wasn't very long before one of the signs was up on one of the houses up on 56, one of the lots. But I reminded him of the incident that I decided ended my stay in the McDonald household. I said right there and then. Well, I said, Mr. Saba taught me. He said, you have to get a place of your own. You can't put up with that nonsense from your mother. And he said, yes, but he says, Margaret phoned around 9 o'clock and told Mama that she was home and you were on the way home. You know, that never dawned on me till then. I was so dumb. I'm getting like Mary. Getting like Mary.
Was he the one that gave the spanking to his grandchild? That was what I couldn't
Freddie.
get back.
Yeah, like John, the one who is, he's not a doctor, he's not a brain surgeon. He's a DNA research scientist, is what he is. He's really up in the world.
Mm-hmm.
He went to Paris for a year. And, of course, Mary's is a brain surgeon. It's nothing to do with brain surgery. John Keister explained to me what it was. It's in the DNA, whatever that is. No, it's something like it.
People's genes.
Yeah, and that's what he is studying. And it's a good thing that he's got brains, because he's got sugar on his face. Did you ever see anybody look more like a monkey?
Oh, yeah, he just, I don't know where he was coming from. I've never seen me. So.
Oh, no, not from me. Freddie, sort of. But no, I don't remember what he looks like. I saw her at her wedding, but I was too busy having a good time. I didn't pay much attention to her. And I was dancing with everybody, and Mama was saying, you're not allowed to dance. You're embarrassing me by dancing. She got on that awful dress that Mrs. Beadle made you. What is an awful dress? Look like hell. I didn't care. Anyhow, I don't remember me. Then the only time I met her, she had on black leather stockings and a really funny thing. Her hair was just real funky. It was nuts. But she is very, well, the kids left home, when they were very young. That boy Murray, the one that plays the pipes, he was just old enough to own property when he bought a house one day for $10,000 and sold it for $20 the next day. Money is what they were after. And I remember one time when I saw them somewhere, sometime, Mary's, it must have been, she was talking to me, she said, they have never been in, must have been at Billy's wedding, they have never been in their own front room, and whichever one it was, I think it was Murray, I guess. I said, you're kidding. No, that's true. Never been in the front room, we're not allowed, never been in it. It's white carpet, nobody's allowed to walk on it. He's the one that used to bang his head on the wall at night to get to sleep. They tried to get friendly with us so they could, Fishing with John, is that your book?
I thought it was her book.
Oh, my book?
I went back.
No. I just wondered if we both bought the same book again.
No, I just got around to reading it.
Oh, to read. Well, it's a light reading, you know. Reading that one called Kitty. Did you read it? It's about the poor people in England. All the terrible things that happened to them. I couldn't get back to sleep. I woke up about 4 o'clock and I couldn't get back to sleep till I was mad at myself. Anyhow, I don't think we should sit here talking about the people called. No, I'll have to do it.